It looks like AI was used on the splash. Like, there's a lot of design and detail that doesn't make sense, especially noticeable on her chest and in the metal rendering. I'm gonna need you to stop doing this. And when I say you, I mean you, the general broad you, because this is not the only comment that's been left saying this, and it's not the only comment that's been left on the work of this particular splash artist alleging the use of AI based on vibes, I guess? Just vibes, feelings, sort of vague intuitions without any backing and any actual examination of the craft that's on display here. Spirit Blossom Lux here is the work of a splash artist who works for Riot called Alcy Lau, and she's been accused of using AI a couple of different times before, perhaps most notably with Porcelain Aurelia. Now, I'm not personally a huge fan of Lau's work. I think it's oftentimes a little bit too sort of smooth and maybe a little bit goopy in the way that it's rendered, but it's also very clear looking at her process work, which she does post online, you can just go and look it up, that a lot of what her art style ends up being is the result of the corporate feedback that Riot is giving her. Like, especially the first version of Porcelain Aurelia that we see in the very early parts of the sketches here, I think is a lot more dynamic and interesting than the final result we ended up with. So, in part, the reason her work looks the way that it does is because, well, that's what Riot is asking her to paint. But if you do look closer at the metal and the rendering of the work that she's doing, you will find that, no, actually, the details do make sense. Maybe not from, like, a realistic physical perspective, but that's not what she's painting. They make perfect sense from the perspective of being fantasy. But take a close look, for example, at these braided ropes that are attached to the little flower pendant on Lux's chest. That's not AI work. AI doesn't do that because the way that she has painted this braided rope shows a real understanding of the physical structure, the three-dimensional volume of a braided rope, the way that the bits of strands and the bits of a rope like that fit together. AI does not understand that kind of thing. If you look at the little flower pendant with the pearl that Lux has got on her chest here, you see all of those little strikes, those little bits of metal burnishing. AI wouldn't understand how to do that either, and it's much the same thing everywhere we go in the rendering of this piece. These are things, this is a structural understanding of a tassel that AI simply doesn't have. Whatever I may feel about Alcy Lau's painting style, she is an immensely accomplished digital painter and artist. She is incredibly good at light and volume. Take a look, for example, at this detail from the Porcelain Aurelia splash. Now, first of all, I'd like you to note that all of these flower petals and stuff, probably there's some brushwork involved in that, makes it a little easier, but she fucking hand-painted these bits. This little bit of, I think it's Lysandra's power that's supposed to be slithering in here, Porcelain Lysandra and her serpents. You see the way the light gets caught in that little bit of, like, serpentine power with the scales flowing up through the light in this way? That's not easy to do. If you take a look at Porcelain Aurelia's blades, look at the precision with which these designs and these details are painted. That is not something that, first of all, not something AI can do, and second of all, it's not something almost anyone can do. This is incredibly high-quality work. It's high-quality work in an aesthetic that I don't very much like, but it's incredibly high-quality work. The reason why I get annoyed at this, and the reason why I need everyone on the internet who doesn't know what they're talking about to shut the fuck up about AI art forever, is because you're not helping. When you look at the work of an accomplished human artist like Alcy Lau, and you say, I don't know, that looks like AI, I can't tell the difference, who do you think you're helping? Who do you think you are helping? Whose argument do you think you are validating? Because the people you are helping and the argument you are validating is that of the generative AI boosters. Their whole argument, their sales pitch, the thing that they're selling generative AI on, is that audiences can't tell the difference. Audiences can't tell the difference between the skilled work of an accomplished human artisan and some bullshit that a machine shat out in 4 minutes. Right? So when you sit here and you look at this, an incredibly accomplished piece of work in an aesthetic that you may not care for, and you say, that looks like AI art, you're validating them. You're proving them right. You can't tell the difference. You can't be bothered to tell the difference. You can't be bothered to look closer. You're validating them. You're telling them that they are right. Audiences can't tell the difference. And you know what's going to happen? The CEOs and the motherfuckers in the boardrooms are going to see that and go, well, why should we pay a human artist then? audiences can't tell the difference. They'll look at really good, incredibly beautiful work created by a skilled artisan and they'll say, that looks like AI, so why should we pay for an actual artist? We might as well just generate all of this shit. That's the argument you're validating when you level that accusation at a human artist with no fucking evidence. Elsie Lau posts her process on Instagram. You can see her working on her work. She has colleagues at Riot Games who are there looking at her work, helping her, giving her feedback, talking to her, collaborating with her. Like, how the fuck do you think... I want you to think critically for just 2 minutes here about what the accusation you are leveling entails. Because she doesn't just sit alone somewhere pressing generate on a computer button. She's at the fucking studio with colleagues. Human artists need our solidarity. They need it not just for the commercial reason that generative AI is steamrolling the creative industry right now, but they need it because if we're going to sit here and profess to say that we care about human-made art, we want human-made art, we don't want machine-generated slop, then we also have to be really fucking careful about where we level the accusation that this looks like AI. Because here's something it annoys me that people never think about. When you look at the work of Elsie Lau and you think to yourself, you have a feeling, oh, that kind of looks like AI art. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that you have that vague feeling in the back of your head? It's because AI art is stealing from her. She's the one who made this. She and a whole bunch of other artists like her who paint in these kinds of styles, they were the people whose work was stolen to make the AI bot. It's stealing from her. It's trying to copy her. It's trying to steal her work. That's why it looks vaguely sort of kind of similar. She's the one being stolen from. She's the one whose livelihood is being taken away by this motherfucking thing. She and the people who paint in this style and the people who come up in the same artistic traditions, they are the people whose work was stolen to make the AI bots that sort of vaguely imitate the way that they paint. So you have the causality of this entirely the wrong way around. Her work doesn't look like AI art. AI art is desperately trying to look like her work. Human artists need our solidarity. And part of that solidarity is to at least be really fucking careful. At least think twice, 3 times, 4 times before you level the accusation at an artist that, oh, that looks like AI art just because you kind of don't like the way that the aesthetic looks. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the aesthetic of Elsie Lau either. I think it looks kind of smooth. I think it looks a little bit over smooth. It looks a little bit goopy occasionally, but she's an incredibly skilled artist within her style. Please, for the love of God, stop leveling the accusation of this looks like AI art when you have no fucking idea what you're talking about. Please stop doing it.